Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, apps here from Dimp Digital. Welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is Dimp Digital's flagship video game podcast where we talk about the ups and the downs of the world of video games. We are here on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, absolutely free. Also Facebook if you're lurking on there nowadays. And if you want to support this grassroots independent endeavour, head over to patreon.com/Dimp Digital and join the community. Hashtag hand in pocket. On this edition, I'm once again joined by the reigning FGL Grand Prix winner. It's the resident ref. It's Logan. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm all right.
He's not happy, that means.
I'm not happy today.
He's got a hangover.
And I did brief you. No, it's not even a hangover. I ain't been out boozing. I haven't even touched a drop of booze, but I'm struggling nonetheless. And I did say to you before the podcast started, I went, I've got a story for you to kick it off.
Yes.
And I said to you, I'm struggling. So I've kind of already teed it up, but I thought I'd go for live, see what the live reaction to it was. So I was in London yesterday.
Blowing around in that big smoke.
Floating around.
No boozing in that big smoke on a.
No boozing on a Thursday night. I was like, I'll get home and do the family thing. So I was rushing home. I was like, I need to get that 17:30 train, so I need to be sharpish. So I was scuttling along, and I nearly got there, and I was crossing the road, and a lady with some gold shoes caught my eye, and I thought, the fuck are they? Like, they were literally like bright gold shoes. And then before I knew it, it was like Lee Catamole had come in and tackled me, like from the front.
Cyclist.
Right? No, so I haven't hit by a cyclist, right? But basically, I completely missed there was a curb. Like, completely just didn't even... Just didn't do it. It's like I was walking like it wasn't even there. And basically, I fucking kicked this curb and I have gone flying. Now, and as I've walked up, it wasn't like there was a load of space on the other side of the curb. So I've like stumbled and then gone straight into a wall. Right?
Shouldn't laugh, but you have to.
No, right. So,
oh
and you know, you have that moment, I don't know, when you're a kid or when you're younger, probably sub 20, you'd get up from that no problem. But I've realised as you get a little bit older, you do this like subconscious check where you go, is anything damaged, like fundamentally damaged?
Yeah.
You do like, you know, in Star Trek where they go damage report.
Yeah.
It's like you do that internally and you sort of do this like internal damage report, which takes a couple of seconds. And I was like, no, nothing's in agony. And then the woman with the gold shoes come over and I had my ear pods in, so I couldn't hear her.
Yeah.
And I just felt her put her hand on my back.
Ooh.
And she's obviously said to me, like, are you okay?
Rat behaviour. That'll be on the socials if you're not careful.
Well, yeah, you got to be careful. She was like, I think she said, I couldn't hear exactly what she said, but I'm pretty sure she said, like, are you okay or something? And I didn't know what to do.
No.
So I just scuttled off. Like, what'd you do?
No.
But I thought I'd got away with it unscathed, but I've last night my wrist just seized up and I had the worst night's sleep. So I don't know how I'm going to do any work today, but I basically can't move a mouse. In all sorts of trouble. But there you go.
Well, the most important thing is this going to affect performances on Warzone and various other gaming endeavours? Like, this could be a problem now.
I genuinely don't think I'll be able to play properly today. Like, honestly, like last night I was playing Football Manager and obviously was using the mouse and I had to stop because I literally like couldn't continue using the mouse. And I was like, that better be better tomorrow. And it is slightly better, but it's one of those things where you give it a 8 hours rest and then come back to it for a couple of hours and it'll be doubly worse. So I'm going to be doing I wouldn't say the bare minimum. It's going to be left-handed or whatever today. But yeah, so there you go. Struggling through my own fault.
Might be able to claim off the council for that these days. You can normally, claim for things that are clearly your own fault. So definitely have a look.
When the woman came up to me and said, you're right, I wanted to go, don't you come and talk to me. It was your gold shoes that have distracted me and caused this whole scene.
Yeah. Yeah,
Unbelievable.
There's a physical toll that's been taken, and also a somewhat public humiliation that you just had to just. That's why you scuttle off and don't dwell on it, because you just want to get out of there and just that's it.
I texted Jodie yesterday and told her about it, and she was like, "Are you all right?" I was like, "Physically, yes, but I don't think my ego's been ever more damaged than it has been today."
Oh dear. Well, look, we wish you in better health. This is I said the risk is a key component of gaming, so we hope that doesn't give you any problems over the coming weeks, because it's just about to pop off, some would say, in terms of the releases, if it hasn't done so already. Now, normally I'd say the undisputed best way of starting a podcast is delay news, but I think that story may well have almost trumped it. So if we have more personal injury stories to kick things off, they will be welcome. But Electronic Arts has delayed the release of Star Wars Jedi, sorry. I don't like the name of this. It doesn't flow right. Star Wars Jedi Survivor by just over a month to April the 28th. It was originally due to be released on March the 17th. On the statement, they said it was in order to, quote, achieve the level of polish our fans deserve. And that came from Respawn Entertainment, who are developing it. EA funding this with their moolah. I find this one interesting in that there is not a pattern, I wouldn't say, I think that's a bit too strong, but I've noticed that sometimes when games are released in the latter half of March, before the financials are all due in, they're half-baked. Mass Effect Andromeda, I always think is a big one, which was delayed out of the previous year. I think Anthem was somewhere around the February-March time. EA in particular, I feel like I've had a bit of a tendency to do this. So I think it's quite encouraging to see it missing the financial year, going into their next year, so they're not going to get the earnings for that. That's going to be kicking off their next financial year. And them saying, look, we don't need this to come out before the end of our reporting. Let's just give it the time it needs. Because in years gone past, I would be somewhat convinced that they would have been like, nope, it comes out before the end of March. You can have another week tops, but we want it out so that those mugs that go and buy it first week, our main sort of base, get us that cash that we can report on. And as we always say, I think delaying a game's good. This is a very minor delay. It's not 8 months like whatever that bloody game was the days before or whatever it was that Adkins has got on his list. So it's not like a massive the day before, sorry. So it's a little bit of a small one. Any concerns from you? Do you agree with my theory, or have I got the financial years all muddled up? Because I don't know. I just spout things that I think are correct.
Don't we all?
No.
I think it's plausible they'd do it. I mean, you'd like to think that they know what they need to achieve financially before making a decision in March to kick it out or not. It seems like it'd be. I mean, I wouldn't want to work for a company where it relies on that for its. Do you know what I mean?
It's all hinging on the results of that game.
All hinging on yeah. I mean, that's but maybe they are. Maybe this is how game studios can work. There's a lot of pressure on getting a good game out and getting a dough in.
Not to cut you off, like with EA, they're doing fine. Like I was seeing reports of FIFA doing the best it's ever done, up like 50% in the US market. So maybe they've just thought, look, we're actually all right this time round. You go off and take 6 weeks. Because 6 weeks, you can do a fair amount, but you can't change the world on it. So it will just be a case of making sure it's just that extra tightened up.
I'd always like to just see, what are you doing then? What
have they discovered some horrible bug, or maybe that's happened later on? You would be interesting to know exactly what in that sort of 6 weeks or so they're going to do that's going to make a difference fundamentally.
You've already made a decision to ship it and do all this stuff for I wonder how it works with
TV adverts. Marketing's probably been paid for.
Yeah. I just whether you just have to contact everyone and go, don't start that for another 6 weeks now. It's just a bit of a weird. I think it's a weird thing to do. Unless it's fundamentally. I don't know. I mean, at what point do you go, if we're not happy with it, we're just going to keep pushing it back? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And we've always maintained the right thing to do is just release it when it's done.
Yeah. Trouble with games there's nothing's ever really done, is it? There's always
not anymore.
There's always something that they could tweak and improve on because of the complexity of the games. Like some some old Burke will do something really random in a game and find out that it's broken it, and then they'll be like, oh, bloody hell. Like 6 months. You find stuff like secrets being found years after games are released.
Yeah.
So there's no way they'll ever be able to make anything perfect. I guess you just want it to be fundamentally sound for the vast majority of people that play it in a normal sort of way. But FGL League for you, isn't it? As we'll transition into that. That is a game that is lurking in your team. Number 2, Biff's number 1 pick for you. Does this give you any concerns when you see things just getting nudged and pushed around a little bit? Or are you sort of like quite relaxed? I mean, it's early enough in the year, it's not going to affect the transfer need necessarily. But it's not setting the alarm bells off where you're like, do we consider getting rid of that in March?
I think you could probably look at it the other way, where you go, you're better off releasing it a little bit later with a bit of additional polish, because chances are you'll get some extra marks for it. So, but it is concern. I mean, it's not a game that I would have ideally picked in the draft. I don't think if I had a list of games, it probably wouldn't make it in there. But I like Respawn. Hopefully, I don't think it's really one I'm going to transfer. I don't see it being up for debate on that, because I don't think there's anything out there at the minute that makes me look and go, yeah, that's going to be net better than
once that 5 points has been
5 points. That's the stinker, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's unless your hand's forced, really, you don't really want to be doing it. Or if there's something obvious out there where you go, that ain't getting lower than X, it's sometimes worth taking a gamble. But I think it's probably one that stays in for me.
Yeah, fair enough. And speaking of the Fantasy Gaming League, another game has dropped. And hard to keep track of these. I need to go through it again and just make sure I've got all the dates roughly in Ronnie's head somewhere. It's in the Grand Prix, so it's not affecting the championship tie, or the championship matchup as we would call it. It's another Biff game. Biff steaming away with 3 games being released. And we spoke last week about the good fortunes of Dead Space sitting on a 90 now. So it's sort of resting on 90 territory, which is great. But then he's got Deliver Us Mars, which is rocked up. He's 9th pick, so low down the list. Sitting there on a 69 now. Same as what Forspoken's got. So 1 week he recovers the somewhat low scoring Forspoken with a 90, and then the very next week he's back to square one, average 76, which I don't think is going to win you any titles. Now, again, we speak for the lens of a bad score because it's for Fantasy Gaming League purposes, not necessarily that the game's terrible or awful. That's not a great scoring game for an FGL league. You want the 80s if you can get them, but I mean, you don't really know how these games. People put stuff on the list at the end, and I think they just think, "Well, I need something here," and this is clearly what Biff's got. And unfortunately for him, it's come before there's any chance of transferring it out, and he's now stuck with that. I mean, you're the man that won it with 2 sub-70s, so you know it can be done, but not ideal at the beginning of the tie for this to be sort of his kickoff.
No, it puts the pressure on, I think, definitely. I don't think you want to be aiming for 80, like an average of 80 to be in with a chance, and then hope that you can deliver some 85s and 90s in there to tip you over the edge. But yeah, it's not ideal to have them straight up front. I mean, if you've got Tut in there or suspected Tut, you want it to be coming out later in the year, so you've got a chance to sort of feel your way through. As you say, otherwise you get to this point and it comes out and it's like, well, you're not really giving yourself a chance. No,
under pressure already. So he's got 3 games out. Adcock, Hall and Paper have got 1 game out. He's got a lead of 146, 147 and 153. So yeah, it's a couple of 70-odd games that will sting him. So obviously it's a long way to go. We're only just kicking off February now, but interesting nonetheless. Now, something that I wanted to do with the FGL as the scores roll in, and I think I've only done it once to my memory, was just check in and say whether we're interested in the game. So, Deliver Us Mars, I'm assuming for you a no-go. It kind of looks like this adventure-type game. With a score like that, it's not going to pull you. It's not like a Pentiment where you think, cool, that's scored higher than I thought. I might have a look at that. Yeah. This is just sitting on a 69, so same for me. Retrospectively, Dead Space I think is an interesting one because that should be a nailed-on one for me, and I haven't. I simply haven't done it. I've gone and played something on Game Pass, which is about 80 hours long, Persona 4 Golden, Hello. So that's going to be taking up a good month and a bit, 2 months maybe a time.
Yeah.
And the main point of that was 70 UK pounds. No, not for these remakes. We had it with Last of Us Part 1, one of my favourite games of all time. I looked Joel and Ellie in the eyes and went, no. Sorry. Same with Dead Space. That'll be on sale at some point in the year. Within a year, it's going to be on EA Access. Now, your insight is useful. Well, not useful, I wouldn't say. It's actually quite useless, but I find it fascinating because you mark this down as something you want to watch someone play through. And for those that aren't well acquainted with your tastes, just explain what you mean by that, because they're kind of thinking, what's he playing at? Is this the Risk thing playing up again, or...?
No, so I fundamentally don't do horrors and thrillers as a genre, whether that's film or games. But I do enjoy watching certain streamers play, or like YouTube content creators play through the games. Like I don't know why. It doesn't make any sense, because I won't even watch horror films. I just go, no, not doing it. For games,
I thought you could watch horror. I misunderstood then. I thought you still watched horror films, but just
no. It's even weirder. Like, I don't watch horror films, but I'll watch horror games.
So here's the question: is the defining element of games because you've got that running commentary for someone to take the edge off? I think so. I'm assuming you're not watching silent playthroughs, like no commentary ones. You're watching a streamer who's waffling, going. Bah!
Yeah, so I think there's an element of entertainment in it. Obviously, otherwise streamers wouldn't be a thing. Like there's an added layer when you watch someone stream.
We do it. I don't think we're particularly entertaining, but it's
arguable. I mean, it's a tricky art. But yeah, so I've watched all the Resident Evil games, Outlast playthroughs, and Dead Space. I watched Callisto Protocol, like games that because I want to know I like to understand the game as well. Like I like to know like how it's portrayed as a game, to like with the atmospheric music and the jump scares and things like that. And arguably, I think in the game they're few and far between, really, in the grand scheme of the game. Like once they've got that initial scare out of the way, you can then get to just sort of fighting. So it's a very small part of the game. But I enjoy watching them. So yeah, Dead Space. I've watched all the Dead Space playthroughs. So I was going to earmark this as one that I'll go and watch through at some point.
There you go. So that's going to get watched. Hall had Persona 3 Portable on Game Pass. Not one for you, I guess. JRPG.
No.
Bit of a visual novel, this one as well.
Yeah, I don't know why. The Personas always do really well, but I don't know why. There's nothing there that makes me want to pick it up.
No, that's fair enough. I got to the point where I was like, should I play Persona 3 or Persona 4 on this Game Pass? And Persona 3 is in a bit more of an older style. Like I mentioned, it's a bit more of a visual novel style, whereas Persona 4 allows you to run around the environments and just feels a little bit more modern, even though the game's over 10 years old, maybe close to 15 now. So I thought I'd go with that one. So Persona 3 Portable is not being done. Plus, there is a rumour going around that Persona 3 is going to get remade. So that's happening.
Surprised. Sorry, I was going to say I'm surprised that Ronnie's allowed you to play through these without prior playthroughs of the previous games.
Yes, that's a good point. The main reason for that is that these are much like Final Fantasy single entries. So there's very little or no, tendrils between the two products. There might be little Easter eggs and references to old, like in your room on Persona 4 Golden, there's a calendar up and it says Persona 3 Portable at the top. That's sort of like but that's about it. There may be some references to characters or other areas, but it's not like it's a continuation.
It's a nod to. It's like an acknowledgement. It's like,
yeah, and I think that's a good way of doing it because it stops people like me having that problem where they're like, well, I've got to... And the first two games they're all completely different. Like they don't even play like Persona 4 was sort of like a new way of playing the games, and Persona 3 Portable was like a halfway step, and then Persona 5 was what that is. So that's not going to get played. Or if they do a remake, and I've enjoyed Persona 4 enough, and then gone on to 5, I'm likely to go back. And the final one we need to just pick up, and we've done Fire Emblem Engage. Both of us said we're not picking up the Switch for that. It needs to be top drawer gems coming out for that old shitter to be booted up. But One Piece Odyssey, Papers little game there. It's based on anime, which I didn't realise, which has over 700 episodes already. So this takes place in the middle of that somewhere.
Good lord!
I mean, it's an unbelievable no, I think, from both of us to consider playing that.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say, really, is there? That's what it is. Anyway, I'll
An
try and...
unbelievable no.
No,
I like that.
It's just not even a consideration, is it? It's not the sort of things that we play. I'll try and keep up with those as they come. But Deliver Us Mars, Briff's Grand Prix team, another 69. What's going on there? Oh, Forspoken.
Yeah.
This was on my sniff radar. I said I played the demo, didn't like it. I guess for you, when something scores like this, is it just immediately just washed away? Like, or was there never a chance?
Yeah. I mean, usually things that I want to play find their way onto the radar, one way or another. So if it doesn't, it's not found it that way for a reason. Does that make sense? I mean, I never played the demo. I haven't seen much of it, but because it's not on the radar, it's, normally when there's things going, like Hi-Fi Rush wasn't on the radar, found its way on there. Like these things usually find a way to bubble to the top if they're playable.
I'm going to start throwing out like red herrings in that group, I think, to try and put things on the radar artificially. If I start doing that, I'll chuck the Crew Motorsport or whatever it's called on there. The new one. Well, they're saying it's the new Horizon series.
I know, but I've seen some stuff on that, and I'm like, I tried you on the first instalment, and it didn't work, so you had your chance.
The Crew Motorfest, sorry, it's called. It's not on the docket, but Ubisoft are so weird. Like, how's that got a third entry? Of all the things that they struggle to get out and push forward, the Crew is on its third entry after 1 and 2.
The USP of that was this kind of like open world multiplayer element,
you could drive across America. I remember the first one. That was like it was all condensed, obviously, but it was like this exciting thing where you could, in theory, drive across America in not scale for scale, but a decent portion of it. And I think we both played that beta, didn't we? And it was like, oh, there's this story about your brother getting killed, and I was like, what's going on here? It's a bit serious, this, but
and the driving mechanics were diabolical.
Oh yeah, that was the main thing. They weren't good enough.
It was so poor. But I just find it weird that they do stuff like that when the market's already just like. I find it weird sometimes when games do things and go, we're going to do this better than an already established. It's like you ain't. Like people are happy with what they got. Work on other stuff.
Well, they added planes and boats and things to the second one, so
there must be people playing it.
Oh, that's
I'd
what
like
I think.
To meet one.
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd one.
Why?
It's appearing, so you can look forward to that at some point. The Crew Motorfest got rid of the free, so Ronnie can come along. Because I'm sure there's rich lore between the 3 games or the 2 games.
Oh yeah, based on that storyline.
That brother's death is still lingering. The Crew 2, I would hasten to. They completely shifted tones. I think they got rid of all that, but it would be funny if that was still part of the ongoing saga of the Crew. And they.
Can you imagine if you picked that up and you went, "This is still going on"?
I know. It would be. It would be funny.
Bizarre.
Anyway, Sony have been at it again. People were starting to say, now I'm not going to say whether this is a legitimate gripe.
Rumour and innuendo.
Well, no, this is happening. It's whether it's a big deal or not, I guess, is the question here. So the PlayStation Plus collection. So for those that are not initiated or don't understand what that is, first of all, I don't blame you because it was a bit confusing and it kind of half made sense but didn't. But essentially, if you have a PS5 today, so there's nothing's changing just yet, but it's going to, and that's what we're going to talk about. You can, if you've got PlayStation Plus Essential, so that's the lowest tier on the PlayStation Plus sort of subscription offering that gives you monthly games, regularly, and access to play online. Still absurd we're paying for that. That's where we are. And if you have a PS5, it also gives you access to, I think it's 19 games now, but it used to be 20 games that you could claim and then download as long as you've got a PlayStation Plus Essential subscription running. Once you've claimed them, you've got them. It's like the monthly games. You haven't got to, if you don't disappear as long as you keep your subscription. It's not like the extra tier where stuff rolls on and rolls off. Game Pass, obviously games roll on, then disappear after a year or so. These games stay in your library, quote unquote, as long as you're handing over your money to Jim.
Yep.
Now, this launched alongside the PS5, and the list of games, I think it's good to context, give a little bit of the list of games. So, Batman Arkham Knight, Battlefield 1, Bloodborne, Call of Duty 3, Black Ops 3, Zombie Chronicles Edition, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, Days Gone, Detroit Become Human, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition, God of War, Infamous Second Son, Monster Hunter World, Mortal Kombat X, Ratchet and Clank, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, The Last Guardian, The Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, Until Dawn, Persona 5... Vanilla, not the Royal Edition, was on there up until May last year, and then it disappeared. But again, if you claimed it, you still got access to it to this day, as long as you do it before it disappeared. Anyway, Jim's come out, not Jim, his press team come out and said, look, from May the 9th, I got an email about this actually.
Yeah, same.
I was like, what's going on here? From May the 9th, the collection of 19 games will no longer be offered. Games can still be redeemed until this date, and will be available to users who remain PlayStation Plus subscribers. And as I said, this was a library of PS4 games that were given exclusively to PS5 owners, kind of as like a little boon. If you've never been on a PlayStation, here's 20 games that you might want to play if you sign up for PlayStation Plus. So it's going away, and the big conversation is this out of order? Is this expected? How big a deal was this really? Now, I've got some data to try and help us inform with... The people don't do this. They don't even look at things. They just gob off and go, well, that's right or it's wrong. But there is some data you can glean from it. It's not the best data, but it's data nonetheless. So, the average release year of the games that are on this service is 2016. So they're up to 7 years old, a lot of these games. If not older, if not slightly newer. So they're not new. During that time, all of these games have been on sale. The vast majority of the games have been on the PlayStation Plus's sort of normal tier, where you just claim it every month. And if you were to buy the games when they were on sale over the last 3 years, or 2 and a bit years since the PS5 come out, the average cost of it would have been £8.81 per game. So that's the sort of financials of it. That's what they were giving you at some point. Now, going back to this point, that list of games, have you even claimed these? Do you even know they exist? Did you go in and just do it out of spite? Are you ever going to play any of these games? Is the more important thing.
This is how I play God of War.
Right.
So yeah, I'm completely aware of it. I think I even was looking at that going, right, okay. I had this half intention to go and do that Uncharted again as well.
Well, they've got that new edition out now, haven't they?
Yes.
That Legacy of Thieves edition, the PS5 spruced up version, which is a upgrade, I believe.
Yeah, so that kind of put the pause on that anyway. There was obviously, and I claimed Crash Bandicoot, claimed...
So you didn't go in and claim all of them on the screen, you just claimed the ones that you thought you might want?
I think so, yeah.
So I just went in and claimed it all. I was like, I'm not even going to play most of these.
I know, yeah. I wasn't surprised that you'd do that. I mean, I'm just lazy sometimes. I'm just like, oh, this is annoying having to go on all these screens. So I'll get the ones that I want to play. But yeah, Jodie, I think, played Last of Us Remastered through that. So yeah, it's, I've played or had the intent to sort of play or at least keep it in the locker a portion of those games.
Yeah.
I'm never going to play Resident Evil
7
Biohazard. It's just never going to happen.
Fallout 4 was on sale for £4 the other week.
Well, I'm never going to play that anyway. Scrablers.
No, exactly. No, of course not. So look, they're getting rid of this.
Yeah.
Should they be dragged over the coals, hung, drawn and quartered, all that business? Or is this, the way I kind of view it is that consumer-wise, it's not great because it's something that we were having that no longer is available for people. So it has to be said. Yeah. As to the importance of it, I struggle to see really... The use case for this is a very small minority of people that will get any value out of it. Because do you want to play those games? Okay, you do. Have you already played them? Okay, you haven't. And is there a PS5 version that's better now that you could buy? Yes, there is. Now, you could argue that's a bit naughty because they're trying to upsell you on the PS5 version, but I would say in most cases it's worth just doing that where possible because it will just play better.
Yeah.
But, should Jim be sent to court and we say, look, what we're going to do with you in the gaming courts, and say this is a faux pas, this is a foul against the gaming community. You need to be backing up your ideas, Jimbo.
I mean, I could say it could be classed as a storm in a teacup. I think to what you've said, it's kind of like I always saw that PS Plus collection as a look. If there's nothing you particularly want to play at the minute or nothing's out, like when we've released a new console, here's all this stuff that you can have a bash at if you really want, like to tie you over. And there were some good games on there, and it tied me over. It tied me over with God of War and some of the stuff that I'd perhaps just not touched on the PS4. So I was like, that's fine. I didn't expect them to just get rid of it. I thought they might start doing some element of rotation.
Yeah, I thought they might just lean it down to just the games they own, because at that point, because you think about why they're doing this, it's because each of these publishers they've got an agreement with to say we want it on that service where people can access it through our subscription service. Here's some money, and here's the time we want it for. And basically, it's come round, and Jim's like, I ain't renewing that. I can see the data. People aren't even fucking playing these games. They're sitting there on podcast moaning, and half of them haven't even downloaded the fucking game. So what's the point in this? I ain't paying fucking Activision 500 grand to have Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Zombie Chronicles Edition on here. There's just no value in that. So I can see why they're gone, but I think they should have just leaned it down and said, right, Bloodborne we own, we'll keep that. Days Gone, we'll keep that. God of War, we'll keep that. Infamous, we'll keep that. Ratchet and Clank, we'll keep that. The Last Guardian, we'll keep that. Until... did they publish Until Dawn? I don't know if they did. Uncharted 4, keep that. Last of Us 3. And then it's like 7 games. It cost them nothing just to leave them on there for people.
Yeah.
The rest of the stuff is working almost like a traditional subscription service where you make an agreement with a third party. It goes on there for a set time that you either re-up it or you go, right, take that off now. We're not paying for it.
Yeah.
I suppose with this one, it was just positioned in a bit of a weird way where they never said it was indefinitely going to be there. And I think if you were living in a world of reality, you would have realised that this couldn't have been in perpetuity because none of these deals are ever for that. But saying that, they never said that it was going to come off at some point. They just said it's going to be there. And I guess it's just a bit of a signal that things don't last forever.
No, and I think in a digital store, that it's up to them ultimately what they put out for nothing and charge, and just because it's free now doesn't mean it's going to be free tomorrow, which is fine. It's a business at the end of the day. It's there to make some money. Say we can give nothing back. So arguably they're giving you a warning. They're saying, look, if you want to play this for nothing, go on and add it to your library now. If not, if you come back in 6 months' time, it ain't going to be there. So it's fair enough, I guess. I mean, if in an idealist world you'd go as much free as possible indefinitely, but in the real world, it's probably not going to happen. So, and again, I think the games that they've got on there are old games. They're not expensive ones. You kind of think if you missed the boat on that and you really want to play it, you probably will be able to for a couple of quid, or go down to CEX and get the game pre-owned there for a couple of quid. Like, there are options available.
That's very, very true. There are options, particularly how old these games are. You can almost find them for under a £5, and you actually own them at that point. You're not bound to paying Jim £8 a month or whatever it is to keep access to it. I think that's what people forget, is that the subscription service access is a rental service. Yeah, it's a very value-adding rental service. But the day you decide it's no longer for you, everything goes. It's all gone. It then becomes the worst idea ever. You look back and think, I haven't got anything to show for this. Yeah. And that's the toing and froing people have with it. Last question. I've accused Sony of being short-sighted on many occasions. And my theory on this is it's another short-sighted move. They chucked this PS Plus collection out there as probably what was a relatively cheap, option to offer some sort of boon to their new console. And then 18 months, 2 years later, we get the revamp of PlayStation Plus Essentials, Extra and Premium, offering this big catalogue of games in the extra tier. Do you think at some point they sat there and said, look, these agreements are coming to an end. We weren't planning to have this subscription service in extra. We've now got it. Yes, it's more expensive. We're going to upsell a few people maybe. But this just clashes with that kind of that business market that we're going after. It's just a bit of a weird added on feature that isn't offering much value, and we want to just clean out the marketing and say, look, Here's what you get in each of these 3 tiers. The PS Plus collection, you all fucking moaned about when we announced it, saying the games are old, I've already played them, it's shit. Why is it only on PS5? Everyone moaned. Honestly, you go back, people were like, what are they doing? This ain't Game Pass! And now they go, well, it's gone now. And now they're crying about it, the same people. Anyway, short-sighted or not, it has the move to this 3-tiered approach, got them in a position where they think, well, let's spin off this collection because we've got a nice, I wouldn't say it's streamlined to have 3 tiers of a subscription service, but that's clearly what they're focusing on rather than this sort of ad hoc collection.
Maybe. I suspect they were always at some point, whenever they saw the numbers dwindle to a certain level, get rid of it. I don't know if they specifically ever set a date or have now looked at it and gone, we don't like that. Maybe they have, but I think it's probably just one of those things where they've had a meeting, someone's had a look at the numbers, put a meeting in, and they've gone, look, this ain't doing well, and they've gone, right, cull it then. It could literally be as simple as that. So yeah,
I don't think this made or broke anyone's decision to buy a PS5 in the last 2 and a bit years.
I don't.
It won't going
as
forward. Not having that, someone won't go, I'm not buying a PS5 now.
Yeah. As you say, it's a boon, right? You sort of picked it up. It's like, oh, that's nice. Like me, I was like, oh, I could play God of War. I didn't play that. It was just a little Brucey.
Yeah.
And then, to be fair, they're not just saying, no, you can't ever play it again now. They're going, look, add it to your library and you can keep it, but we're done with this. And I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
Like, at some point, they're probably thinking we need to move on from this. As you've alluded to, there's probably some agreements and financials that come into play with regard to the third-party stuff. And again, that's fine. It's like, I don't want to play Black Ops 3. Like, get rid of it.
Zombie Chronicles Edition.
Well, sorry, yeah.
What
don't
is
want to make any mistakes.
What is that? Do you know what that is?
Fucking no, I've got no idea.
Someone tell me. Is that a separate zombies only? I don't know what that is.
I'm not interested. It didn't pique my interest at the time. It's not now.
No.
I'm going to go back and play that. So,
as you should.
Yeah, I think it's fine. As you say, it never feels good though. Whatever it is, having something taken away. But in terms of the grand scheme of the impact, it's really not that great. I don't think.
No, it's not a problem, is it?
No, or it isn't for me.
Let's see if there's more storms in teacups we can stir up. Redfall will require a permanent online connection, even when playing single player, Bethesda has confirmed.
Yeah.
So this is the age-old squabble that goes on between online connectivity and other bits and pieces. And they've answered the question, a persistent online connection is required for single player and co-op. I'm almost certain this is the case for quite a few games out there.
Yeah.
And it don't really get picked up or looked at. Redfall, for whatever reason, has got a bit of a target on its back, and it's getting snarled up in all this nonsense. It's getting headlines written about it. I understand people's concerns, I must say, because the day that Bethesda stroke Microsoft sit there and go, let's turn those servers off, means that game will no longer be played. So if you really fall in love with Redfall, and not many other people do, and there's a business decision made in 5 years where they say, that's a pain in the arse to keep that on, let's bin it off. You actually have no way to continue playing the game. It's going to be completely reliant on it. Unless, of course, they patch it out, which they could do as like a little, right, here we go, we turn this off, but you can play it offline finally. So I get that perspective. However, there's also the perspective of there's many games that do this. It's happening elsewhere. Hitman 3 is another example. You can play that offline. Or Hitman, the what's it called? The Assassination Trilogy, what have they renamed it? The World of Assassination. But you can play it offline. It just means you don't get a lot of the features. I don't know. I'm always a bit torn on this. I understand the apocalyptic views of, well, once they turn it off, it's gone, which isn't a great place to be in. Like, imagine if they did that of God of War. You'd be like, huh? What's going on here? I don't know. It's short-sighted in one way because you're basically saying these servers need to be working, but on the other hand, majority of people this won't impact because they'll have access to ongoing internet connection. Broadband is, eliminated. Well, not eliminated, but makes reliability, at least I would say in our part of the world, decent enough where it's most likely not going to be a problem. But then you're always going to have those issues where your internet's down, you can't play the game, and it's a pain. So you're much more online focused than me. So I suspect you're in the boat of don't care, storming a teacup jobby.
Well, I don't know why people. As you said, the first thing when you said that was it was like I'm sure there are more games or most games. Like every game wants me to cloud save these days and do this, that, and the other. And they probably just don't say you need to be online. Even if you're playing any Game Pass game, you've got to be online for it to recognise that you can access it via Game Pass and things. I think it's more prevalent now than it's been in a while. I don't know why people get all het up about it. I think it just reinforces my belief that Redfall is just a co-op game. Like it shouldn't be positioned as a single player because I just don't think it is. I don't know why people get so pissy about it. Like Warzone. I'm sure there are people that loved Warzone 1.0, but they go, "Yep, we're turning that shit off. We're going to work on." Like, bad luck. It happens. They can't support everything forever indefinitely. The argument would be you're paying £70 for Redfall, and you're paying nothing for Warzone, so you haven't paid anything for it. You don't get a shout over it. So I get what the crowd are shouting, but grand scheme of things, 10 years down the line, are you going to really be still playing that?
What if it's like the best game ever?
It ain't.
What if it is? What if it is like a God of War?
It ain't. I'm going to say that now. Yeah. It ain't. So there's going to be the odd few people that probably absolutely love that to death. And unfortunately, like most games, at some point it will get they'll turn the life support system off and that'll be that. But, as you said, they might go, look, we get a few, there's like a core community in this game. If that ever appears, there's a core community. We're going to change it so that you can download your save or whatever it is onto your local thing and play it off there. I don't know, but I don't care. Like I don't care whether they say it's online or not. Like if they go, you've got to be online. It's like, well, I'm online all the time anyway. Like it's just the world we live in now. Very rarely do I go and switch that. Well, never do I go, oh, I'm going to go offline. No. Just switch off my internet and live in the dark.
Well, you can't even use your fucking eating without the internet being on these days. Everything's tied into that. Sure, as an overall, I don't have all that crap implemented because I can't be dealing with it. But what if something like Uncharted 5 was online only? Would that make you pause just slightly? And say it had no co-op element. It just did it because they wanted it to be some sort of DRM check or something. Like,
no,
that's fine.
I'd play it and then walk away. Like, I get that there's always going to be this little hardcore group that will be crying about it at some point. Like, I get it, but like, play games, move on. Like, and once they're out of support, they can't. The reality is, in this life, you can't support everything forever. Like with these Google operating systems, you buy these phones and they go, "We're going to support that for 2 years," and after that, you're on your own. And you go, right, well, you don't see people crying about that, going, "Oh, you're not going to support it forever." No, we're not. We can't. But this is the thing. Everyone loves a new shiny thing, right? And planned obsolescence and all that, this, that, and the other. But, I think it's a bit of a storm in a teacup. If people are getting all pissy, I get it because there's an element of Ronnie.
Game preservation.
Yeah, well, it's just Ronnie around. Like the idea that you buy something and might not be able to play it forever. Like, I get it. But
Microsoft take off Forza Horizons when their licenses expire for the music. You can't play Forza Horizon 3 now if you wanted to go and buy it. It's gone.
Really?
Yeah. Can't buy it on the digital store. It's gone. If you've already got it, you can play it. Yeah. But they can no longer sell it as a new product, so you have to find it in the second-hand market. That's what I mean. That's a bigger deal than an online connection, really. But I guess the impact could be the same in that. The day that they decide that it's not viable to continue running the servers, or in Forza's case, having the licenses for the music, that's the theory anyway. It's the day that it disappears, and then there is a movement around game preservation saying that every game. My view is if the game's really good and great, preserve it. If it's turt or average, if it goes away, it don't matter. We'll move on. Next.
I mean, you want the classics. I like the thing that I love about games and the fact, I know Paper's hugely into it, so's Hall. Like, they love their retro gaming. I've still
They're
got my
fucking
ZX
emulating it all.
Spectrum.
They're cheating the system, most of them.
I've got a Master System, I've got a Mega Drive, and I've got a ZX Spectrum in the loft. And I'm sure I could get them down and connect them up and they'd work fine. And I could put any of those game cartridges in and play it. I mean, I'd have to blow them a million times and go through that whole rigmarole. I don't know if you remember having to do that. But the point is you could... There's nothing stopping you from playing those games. And I get it. I like... People want to be able to do the same thing, arguably, in 20 years' time. They go, I've still got my Xbox 360 up there if it hasn't red ringed, and I can play Borderlands at 5 frames per second.
That's always worthwhile.
But the reality is we're moving into a more digital age, a more connected age, and these companies don't want to support took games forever.
No, they won't. So it will disappear if it doesn't get the traction that they deem necessary. Last thing on Redfall.
Yeah.
And this is just more... We were sort of speculating about this when Phil announced it, that there's going to be $70 games coming in 2023 for their sort of premium games. And what's interesting, the last week or so, we've had Hi-Fi Rush, which came out and hit Game Pass. But if you wanted to buy that outside of that rental service, it's £30 UK. So that's obviously not being considered a top-tier premium one. Redfall, though, is the first one of these new wave of $70 games. And our question was, they haven't announced what the prices are going to be in our territory, on the British Isles, in the United Kingdom, for this UK pans and the reason why it's up in the air is because some games are $70 in the UK, £70 over here. Some are $70 in the United States, and then 55 quid over here. So it's not always a like for like. Redfall is 70 UK pounds. So they're going with the Sony approach of just chucking the number across and not doing any level of conversion. There's also a bite back edition which you could buy for 100 UK pounds. So get a couple of hero passes there. So that's more of a confirmation.
Game Pass.
Oh yeah.
Honestly.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Phil one day says, our games are 100 quid, just to make you really want to go down that Game Pass route. Leverage it and say, look, 100 quid to buy it, or you just rent it off us for 15 quid a month or whatever it is, and people do it. What's interesting, because the other thing I wanted to mention was this is coming to Steam as well, so you can't get Game Pass on Steam. You can get it through the Xbox app on Windows, but for people that love Steam and want to keep their achievements or just want to buy their games and don't want to be in a rental space, I thought, is that really going to be 70 quid on the Steam store? Because as we said about that Master Race, they'll spend $5,000 on the PC. They won't want to spend a tenner on a game. They want it to be half price all the time.
They don't like it, do they?
No. It's actually $59.99, so 60 UK pounds on the Steam store, which is a bit bonkers in that you can buy it on the PC Xbox store for 70 quid, but it's 60 quid on the Steam store. I don't know what that's all about. That seems a bit strange to me, and that is... What's the advantage of paying the extra tenner on the Xbox app? There isn't any. But clearly they've recognised that Steam is not the place you chuck complete full price premium games at, because the crowd don't like it. That's all I had on that. Also, Xbox Series X and Series S consoles are raising their price of the console in Japan. So Phil mentioned this last year. It's going up. It's actually a date they gave, which I don't think Jim did. I think overnight they just sort of went, right, those PS5s are more expensive in these regions. Yes, so it's February the 17th. So you've got a couple of weeks if you're in Japan and want one of those consoles. But is that a sign of things to come in other regions, Logan? Is this the start of this comment that we picked up on last year? Phil saying, look, these prices are going up, and is he just going to do it region by region, bit by bit, rather than just go, right, everyone but the US is getting a price increase from yesterday? You're like, hang on a minute. What's going on here?
I mean, you'd have to say it probably is the start. I mean, I still remember the days when I could walk in and get a brand new game for $39.99. So anything above that still seems steep to me. I don't really know how this creep has happened, but that was probably 15 years ago. So
yeah,
it has to be taken in the context of that. But yeah, it is a sign of things to come, right? And I think more and more will go down that route. Sony opened the doors for it. Why would Microsoft not follow? It's easy money,
guys.
right?
They give things away. You don't pay for anything.
No one has ever said Microsoft are good guys. That has never happened.
Well, you should see some of the discourse on the internet.
Phil is a friend of the show, and I don't like throwing him under the bus. But if you've ever played any of that Microsoft stuff, or they had not, you can never. None of these tech companies are good guys. No. They're literally there for the share price and raking in the dough. They might like their products, and I'm sure Phil is passionate about gaming, but bottom lines, so they're going to take the easy money, I think.
Yep, tend to agree. Well, that's going to be it for this segment of the podcast. We're going to transition to Gotham Knights. Adkins bought that game and has gone down that route. Now, I don't want to give away too much, but I think people listening to this will be not surprised by his opinion, but will be surprised where it ultimately ends up. And there needs to be a conversation about dumping grounds in that gallery, because I feel like some people are taking advantage and being too good-natured. So just keep an ear out for that, and some of these tiers need to have some level of respect put on them, and I'm going to lead by example going forward on that. So,
well, I think it's definitely it needs to be more stringent. I think sometimes it's easy to go, it's all right, and it goes. It's like, well, if it's all right, it's a gaming gallery.
It's up to him. If he wants to sit in, if people walk round and see that on there, he'll be the one who's judged by it ultimately. But I'm going to try and tweak my approach for 2023 and be a bit more stringent. So we'll see how that goes, because I probably will just take the easy road out when I can, when I'm not sure. But anyway, Gotham Knights is coming your way with myself and Adkins. If you made it this far, we thank you. But we'll see you on the other side. Here we are then, back with some game impressions to close out this edition of Idle Game Chat, joined by the 4-time Fantasy Gaming League quiz champion, not an FGL champion at all. Not one.
Stuck me off.
I didn't mean to do that, but won the quiz 4 times. That's the most anyone's won any of the competitions, so can't complain at that. But you're here to reveal all the expose on Gotham Knights.
I am I'm in Gotham here. Look, towering over for the videos.
Not as Spider-Man, because in this particular outing, he's dead.
Spider-Man,
Batman. Would it have been better if Spider-Man was in it?
It would have been better if they just went, he's still alive, Bruce Wayne. But I'll tell you what, Peter Parker's knocking about. Oh, he's dead.
Exactly.
That would have been good.
So, Gotham Knights. Dead. Now, I think the first thing I want to talk to you about is we do a little bit of cards on the table and whatnot, but I have to ask this question.
2 questions: how and why?
Well, that as well, but the why for me is this PC decision.
Yeah.
As I remember, and I could be misremembering, this happens all the time. I make stuff up and then believe it as reality, and if no one's there to challenge me, it goes into the law books. One of the last games you got on your... I have to take this fucking hood down. One of the last games that you got on your PC when you said, right, no more consoles, PS4 and Xbox One are being binned. Yeah. I seem to remember one of the last straws was this awful port of Gotham Knights? No, what is it? Arkham Knights.
Arkham Knight.
Yeah. So the last Batman game in that sort of trilogy, in the Arkham trilogy.
That was it.
Is that correct, or am I just making that up?
No, that is correct. I went, no, this is going to be fucking brilliant. I'm going to be able to play this at max settings. Yeah. I'm going to get absolute fucking... I'm leaving those console peasants behind. They've got on the PS4, they've got to play at 30. And here we go, baby. Zoom! It's going up to 60, 120 the lot. Oh, dear God, I can't even get a stable 30 frames out of it.
Yeah, and I remember you showed me, I'm coming around, it was missing like shaders, and it was just, it wasn't, I think you got through it eventually.
I did, yeah, very badly, yeah, and was like, that's really soiled it. I will vow never to buy another fucking Batman game on PC.
Now, this isn't a Batman game. Technically, it's a Gotham. It's the loser's game, isn't it? It's all the sidekicks that aren't good enough. To wait till he's dead to take over the mantle.
Yeah.
Now, I remember a message coming through to me during this playthrough saying this might be one of the worst PC ports I've ever played. So tell me about that. Is that what's happened?
Oh, let's reel it back a bit.
Don't let me run off.
I'll tell you my story. So I had this pre-ordered on PS5.
Oh yes.
Was very hyped for it. Very, very hyped.
No one else was.
No one else was. Certainly not yourself. I remember you saying that. I just got bad feelings about this, and correct, you were right. But no, then the controversial decision to cut a performance mode out of their game in aid of, and I don't think this is in aid of anymore, is so they could run a consistent 4-player co-op.
So you can play it as a co-op.
You can play it as a 4-player co-op if you so choose. Oh, God, to think what the frame rate would be if you did.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, when I found out that was gonna be the deal, that there was no 60 FPS, I was like, I'm sorry, I'm spoiled now. This is the generation where I have the option. Every game I've played so far has a performance and a quality mode. If we're not doing that, I cancel my pre-order, and it's like, no, not having that. Even though I love the story, like the story setting of it, that it's got the Court of Owls, it's the Batman franchise, so you've got the lore there. I'm a huge Batman fan. I happily played Origins and liked it. I thought it was quite underrated for what it was. And I was stuck by my guns, but I still cancelled it. And then obviously saw the barrage of scores that come out and was like, right, no, I think I've dodged a bullet here.
Yeah.
Until that very day. So then there we go. Get to Christmas. I can't remember when it came out. Was it like November or October?
Yeah.
I think it came out. Anyway, palmed it off. Nope. There you go. What happens to these games when they're shit reviewed and no one buys them? The price goes down. And I can't remember if what I saw first was either a YouTube video of it or the price. I see a copy. I just went, I wonder how much it is now. So I looked at it and I found it on CD Keys, I think. Yeah. CD Keys. For a whopping $18.99.
Wow.
So I thought, right, well, I've got this PC here. If I can play it at a reasonable graphical setting and I can get more than 30 frames, I'll be happy with that. If I'm happy to pay £18 or £19 for that shit experience. I've just played Callisto Protocol. It's been given a 78 or 68. 68%. I fucking enjoyed that.
Gotham Knights got one score above it on 69.
Exactly. I could play Gotham Knights and enjoy it for £19.
Yeah.
So I was over Christmas and I thought, I'll tell you what, I'm going to fucking pull the plug. I think I went onto YouTube and I typed in like Gotham Knights running on a fucking 1070 or whatever I've got.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then there you go. So I booted it up, and you start off indoors. And I was like, right, here we go. Let's max these settings. And I was walking through and I was getting like fucking 70, 80 frames a second. I thought, I've hit the fucking jackpot. This is an absolute flawless. And was loving it. Played like the first couple of hours, all indoors. I was like, this is the daddy. I don't know what all the problems are. Then you go out into the open world.
Right.
And boy, oh boy, did that tank.
Oh, dear.
It went from absolute 80s to 70s to 20s and 15s. And it just got worse and worse and worse. Then they patched it, and then I was getting crashes every now and again. Like if you got on your bike and you drove through the city, it would crash because it was taking so long. Like it streams in like the assets of the fucking world.
Yeah.
This barren world, and it's happening so fast that my fucking frame rate couldn't keep up with it, and it just goes, I don't know what to do, fuck it, and just crashes. So it got to this point. I played quite. I think I played it for about 40 odd hours in the end.
Jesus
But no, 35. I think 35. But I played about 20 hours of it. Sort of like it was playable to an extent. It was playable.
20 and 15 frames being quoted though.
It was. I say that it was outdoor. This is the trouble with
Did you
this
turn
game.
the settings down to try and?
Yeah, I went right down to the bottom, put everything on low, and it was still having problems. I went down to 720p, and it was still. I was looking on the fucking forums. There's people with 3090s that can't even play on 1080p. It's just an absolute shitter of a game in terms of that. But then you go inside these environments. It's not seamless. Like it literally, you go into a building and it cuts to black. But then when you're inside a building, I'm getting 80 frames again, and I'm like, for fuck's sake! So it's just that open world.
Yes.
But I stick by that comment. I've now finished the game, and I've clocked about 35 hours, I think, maybe a bit more. And that was by far, not by far, but that is the worst game port I've ever played, I think. Just because of how much it was unplayable. I had to finish the game locking it to 30 frames. So the reason I bought that game on PC was that I didn't have to play at 30 frames. For the last 30% of that game, I had to lock it to 30. So it wouldn't crash.
The gaming gods taking the piss again, like they like to do. Interesting.
So I played about 70% with variable frame rates,
flapping all over the place.
80 to 15. As I say, I will quote unquote say it was playable. It was fucking diabolical, but playable. And then the last 30% had to lock it to 30 just to get to the credits.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
I said you did a little bit of research about the port of it.
Yeah.
How is this not unearthed before purchasing it? Or did you go in thinking I'm risking it slightly, knowing there could be problems? Or was it just not very thorough? Or
it wasn't? No. To be fair, looking at the Steam reviews, they were right. They were good. They were like, I don't think they were mixed. And then when I bought it, it then changed. But the discussion,
second you
it literally was. It was. I think there was a patch the day before I bought it. And I was like, right, no, this ain't too bad. And it was like positive reviews. And then the next day it changed to mixed. And then I was on the discussion boards, and every single discussion was bad performance, crashes. Why is this crashing? How do I sort this? And I was like, fucking hell. But it seemed to get progressively worse as I was playing through the game. Like I said, the first 10 to 20 hours, I didn't have many an issue. Like it was fine. And I could carry on. Obviously, there was frame rate hitches and fucking spikes and drops, but I could play it and get through the game. Then each day it just seemed to get worse, and then there was crashes, and then it was unplayable. And I was like, "What's happened? There's not been a patch."
Yeah,
it's one of the most weird. I'm not sure because I've just turned me with thing. I'm not sure if there's been a patch since, but it was just fucking diabolical. And like I say, it's not just me.
You was playing this a good couple of months at least after release, so you'd expected by that point the main patches to fix or to stabilize would have been in, and maybe they are still working on it. But oh dear, well, that doesn't sound very.
No, so
is the little life hack now to ignore the Steam reviews and go to the discussion boards?
That's what I've been tending to do. I mean,
check in there.
The trouble is, you do get fucking review bombers, so you will get prats on there that have they're not helping. They're just fucking doing it for the state of the game. I'm surprised there ain't more because there's a lot of, let's say, woke stuff in this game.
Okay.
So I'm surprised it didn't get review bomb more than it did.
It's usually right for that,
exactly. So I am surprised. But no, I did find them message boards. Well, I say I haven't found them helpful. I didn't actually ask. It was just people moaning at their games. But there was, like I say, it was just across the board because I was sitting there thinking, well, my rig is a brand new 2022 game.
Yeah.
My rig's probably not powerful enough. But at the bottom of the store page, it says like your recommended settings, and the settings were my rig. So
in excess.
That's
always what I find frustrating about PC gamers. You never quite know whether it's your rig, your settings.
Exactly.
Is it something running in the background? Is it your optimization? You've got the wrong setting turned on, or is the game just crap and been ported crap? And I thought at one point we were getting away from like bad or insufficient PC ports, but It seems like he still stumbled across them. A fair old.
No, and it seems to be the same
Talk about
studios
Callisto
as
Protocol
well.
was cack on the PC when that come out.
Yeah,
As well, another one just launching like it feels like in the priority order it's a bit lower on the pecking order for the techies.
Yeah.
Like they'll get PlayStation 5, Xbox running, and then PC is like, well, if we can get it, we'll get it done. I know that's not the case for all games. There are beautifully optimized games out there, but
yeah.
we're still, if you're paying big money for the big machines, and even that can't brute force.
Nah, that's
flawless
the thing. That's where I
performance.
knew
That is the
this
annoyance.
is a game problem, that there was multiple videos on there of people with 3090s going like, look
What's
at
this
this.
crap?
I can't. How can I deal with this? And I was like, well, if they got them fucking powerhouses and I'm struggling here with this, I mean, no one's got hope. But I did get through the line, and that is the technical side.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I've still got to talk about the game.
Oh yeah, let's try and maybe this isn't a positive point, but because you love your Batman, and your lore from that side of it. What's narrative wise? Did they get that part right? Is the story? Because I've heard the court. I don't know what the courthouse is about. I don't want to know, but I've heard that can be very interesting depending on how they do it. Did they miss an opportunity here, or did they kind of stick to landing? They did.
No, they did. They did miss an opportunity because of how good the story could have been. It was serviceable. I'm not going to go back and say it's a shit, terrible story. Right. But they could have done more with it. I think this game was made at the same time that Marvel done Avengers. And they went, right, we could do this. We could turn this game into an event. This would be we could turn this into the Gotham Knights, and then we're expanding. We could start bringing all these fucking characters in. And then that game came out. They released Avengers, and they went, cool, look at the backlash off that.
Yeah.
Right, quick, abort. Turn this into a fucking Arkham game where it's single player only, and just chuck this at it, and fuck. But story-wise, it's a good story. It is a good story. It's not a great story. It's not going to be an everlasting thing, but it's serviceable. They just underutilized the Court of Owls, I thought, because of how good the Court of Owls storyline is, and they introduce it. There's a lot going on in this story as well. It's always gonna be with a fucking Arkham Batman game, because there's so much to pull upon. You've got so many villains. There's so many other characters you can bring in, and they do that a lot in this story. There's lots of different characters, lots of different villains, and they sort of try and meld it all into one big ball of story. And it just sort of falls short of being a real memorable story. But yeah, it was serviceable.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's kind of what you can ask for in many areas. Yeah. And that this may be where the positives end, but
yeah, the two I'll go on to next would be graphics. Now, those were better than what I was expecting. There was a lot of comparisons before I bought this of people saying how shit this looks compared to Gotham Knight.
Yeah,
Arkham Knight. Sorry,
Arkham Knight,
yeah. And yet, to be fair, all right, it does. It's very bland in its world. The open world, that is, in comparison, like it just.
There's people roaring around though, isn't there? They've actually got pedestrians.
It's a living, breathing world. There's people roaring around. You can
don't get that in Arkham. They've all gone
get involved. No,
stayed in for
everyone's
Christmas
asleep,
or something,
haven't they? And it does change as well. Like it doesn't. You don't have a day and night cycle, but you'll do missions where it will influence the city, and the city will be slightly different if something's going on. So it does, but yeah, and like I say, when it was running at full, when I managed to get it up to full graphics, full ultra settings, and it was running at 1440p, I was like, cool, no, this does, like, the lighting and stuff of the open world does look quite nice, and it is very, like, Arkham Knight was very stylized. That was a very good looking world, whereas this is very cut back and block. Just very box standard. I think that's why people didn't like it. What I will say though is this game was like two halves. You had the open world where it ran like shit, and it was that big open Ubisoft world full of fucking bloat, and go get this, go and stop this crime, do this, do that, and then you're rip roaring around this fucking open world that can't handle it. That was the worst part of the game.
Yeah.
Going around. When you went on these missions and you did the main story missions and you went inside these buildings and you were doing the missions inside, they look phenomenal, some of them. This is where the real fucking meat and potatoes of this game and the best parts of it are. When you're going through these environments, you go through fucking... I'll make some up so it's not for spoilers, but you're going through fucking
Going through
prisons.
Joker's lair.
You're
Oh, yeah!
going through Joker's lair. You're going through fucking Riddler's arsehole.
Penguin's igloo.
Exactly.
Riddler's
It's all these different places. But some of them, like there was a couple where I was just like, fucking hell, this looks really good.
Are they big?
When you're going, they're massive. Yeah, they're very linear.
Yeah.
But they are explorable. You can go off and find sort of chests. There's a lot like the gear in this game. It's quite it's Marvel Avengers-esque / Destiny. You've got that gear loot. You have a power level.
Yeah.
You then have fucking elements involved. It's like I say, they definitely made this game when Avengers was happening and gone, yeah, this will be our version. But yeah, the actual level environment and some of the fucking level design, the environments, how they look. They are gorgeous, and was like very impressed with how they look. If this game had been an indoor linear story, I think it would have been a different story. I think they'd have fucked that open world off and gone, right, look, the trouble is, the main crux of the thing is you protecting the city, going, right, I've got to go out and stop these crimes. So that's where the main part of the game is. It's just the actual main story missions that were mostly inside an environment. They were so much better. Then that would have been another fucking different story. I think I said a similar thing about Avengers, to be honest.
Yeah, you did. So is it possible that you could ignore the busy work in this and just mainline it without it forcing its hand on you? Because it sounds like there's something there if you could just ignore the toot. Or will the game force you to do stuff, or will the power levels just not allow you to do it? Is there some sort of... He's nodding his head, so something's not gone right here.
Something's not got around, and this is a massive detriment to its downfall. Guess what this game has? Level gating.
Oh, God.
So, if you
Power
go right,
gating.
Power gating. So, if you go fucking right, I'm going to do this. You get it. For the most part, it weren't fun because I was sort of doing a bit of a clear down. I weren't until the end where I really was. I want this done.
Far
and I was like,
Cry New Dawn. He was like, right, I want this done.
Exactly, I want this done. And I was like, oh, I can't, for fuck's sake. Because the way I was playing it,
so would it let you do it, but it's just impossible, or
it's impossible? Yeah, it would let you do it, but it'd be fucking hard.
Yeah,
it'd be fucking hard indeed. But yeah. So each mission will have like a recommended fucking level or power level that you've got. But yeah, you could go off and do that shit or try and get past it, but that was the trouble. There was like sections where you'll do a few missions, and you get this in other games, and then they would go, the story will progress, and it will say, well, check back in to get your next mission. You might as well go off and do a bit of fucking crime busting for the night.
So you have to just fuck off and do stuff.
So you have to go fuck off, and you have to go and get involved with that shit just so you can get your level up.
Could you just like sit on top of a building and wait for it, or does it want you to progress stuff? Because Spider-Man did some similar things where it'd be like, oh, there's a bit of downtime here.
Yeah. No, it does. To be fair, it doesn't make you go and do that. It won't come to you. No, you have to go off and find it.
And do like
it's
10
weird
things. Yeah.
The way it works is you have like this. You have like essentially the Batcave that's called the Belfry, which is like your main hub, and you have to go back. Like, it works in nights, so you'll go there, and you'll get like the main information, and that's where you do all your gear upgrades and God knows. And then you'll go off, and it will go, right, are you ready to go out on patrol? And then you go off, and then in that night you get like a mark. It'll say like, so you have like the open world, and you have your main mission there, and then there'll be all these different little fucking things you can go off and do, fucking characters you can go and meet, little crimes here, little investigations here, and then that's it. At the end of that, you'll do that mission, and then at the end of that mission, it'll say, oh, I'll meet you back at the Belfry. So you can either go straight back to the Belfry, or you can carry on and clear down.
And will they disappear the next night?
Yes, they'll disappear
right.
and repair. So you don't have to do it, but there you go. Then you ain't gonna get your fucking power level up, and you ain't gonna get your XP to get to the next level. And then get experience points to level up skill trees. So they sort of, you can get away. I'd be interested to know if you whacked it onto the fucking easiest level, if you could just steamroll it.
Yeah, it's
But
awkward when
certainly-
games do that because
Yeah.
in some ways I'd almost rather they said you can't access it until this level.
Yeah.
Just so that you don't go in thinking I'll walk over this and then you get your ass handed to you. But
No, because that's exactly what happened with me, and it's certainly towards, because I was looking at some of the trophies and stuff because I was going to get it on things so I could platinum it, but there's like certain things you have to do, like complete all the crime activities for one single night, and on there it said like do this as soon as you can, because the harder the longer this goes on, the harder it gets. And that's
Right.
where the sort of fucking gaming, the fucking level gating starts kicking in more, because the more harder enemies come in, and then you really have to have your level up to get these fuckers. So yeah, combat wise and that well, not combat wise, level gating wise, and in its story, the way it's set out, it was poor. It was poor. It's just such a shame, because the missions itself were quite fun in a stage, like the missions where they was, box standard Arkham missions, go through, fight the dudes, progress the story. There was a few sections that sort of you have never had in a Arkham game before. I won't spoil what they are, but
yeah.
certainly there was things in there that you've never experienced before. But then you had the box and you had the big boss fights,
Yeah.
the investigations. There's quite a few puzzle solvings in this game that are quite interesting. But yeah, then you get down to the combat. Now, the combat, it's interesting.
Someone said to me it doesn't play like the Arkham Knight games. It
No,
tries
it
to play
doesn't.
more like Spider-Man, but not as good.
Yeah, so it's not free flow combat. You can build combos, but they're impossible to score.
For a player at your level, maybe.
Exactly, yeah.
No,
It's really hard to muster. I'd be interested to see a real pro fucking using his old. You get shitloads of like skills and stuff you can do, but it's after playing the free flow combat of like the Arkham games, how you could do it. When you see comparisons, yeah, this definitely does try to take it down the sort of the fucking Spider-Man one with the parry system and that, but it's just because the characters you got 4 different characters and they each play separately. You got like Red Hooded, I'd imagine you'll go for because he's more of a range. You got guns with bullets that don't kill people apparently.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah,
There's shit like that. You've got and then you've got like Batgirl, who pretty much plays like Batman, and then you've got Nightwing, who I mained as quite a lot. I sort of used him for most of the part. Because one thing they did do, which was quite good, I quite liked, is you can simultaneously, you could change every night, you could change to a different character.
yeah.
And what I quite like that they did is they up the level. When you level up a character,
like
you
shared
level up
progression.
everyone. Shared progression.
Yeah, you
And
don't
then
wanna be-
the only things that you could do is you'd have to go and play as that character to get better gear.
Yes.
So the gear, you'd be slightly bit lower power level because the gear wouldn't be so bad. But so I quite like that they did that. They didn't make you go, right, I've got to complete this fucking game 4 times with 4 different characters.
No, yeah, that's always a concern when there's multiple characters.
Exactly. But so yeah, but it's just that combat overall. It was again down to the frame rate. It's if it was liquid, it could really look good. There's some cool moves you can do. You're flipping them, flying over there. There's some good particle effects in this game.
Yeah.
Again, which I had to fucking turn down because it was melting the PC. But if everything's running and everything's fucking full blown, this like it could look nice, but it's just not the same level of fucking slickness that the Arkham games played. I don't know why they've gone backwards. They've tried to change it and they've broken it.
Well, that was the way, because you played Arkham Origins, didn't you? Which,
Played Arkham Origins,
which wasn't
which-
Rocksteady, and this is
No,
not
that was
Rocksteady.
this studio.
So
This
is there
studio.
is there like a big drop off from? I mean, or did you see it in the same? I don't know how you felt about Arkham, which I can't remember now.
I liked Arkham Origins. It got a lot of shit, but again, because it came out to a shit, I fucking should have realised this. It came out to a shit port,
Right? Yeah.
and I bought it on PC, and there was a lot of hate because it was like a spin-off, and it was new voice cast. You had you had Troy the Boy playing fucking Arkham. Joker. Then you had a new Batman voice, and it was set in the prequel, but it still had the pedigree. You had the same type of combat, the same sort of game. So it was like they borrowed the assets and made it their own. And I did quite enjoy it, to be fair. It's not as good as Arkham Knight and Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, but I quite enjoyed my time with it. But again, this feels like another sort of below. Well, this is way below. This is below all of them, to be fair. But I don't know. Yeah, I thought the potential was there that it could have. Because I enjoyed the last game they did. A lot to people's discredit. They didn't like it, but I did, and then I thought I'd have some fun with this. But ultimately, in the end, it wasn't enjoyable because it just the story didn't cut it. It was good, but not great. And then just the world building, the way they done the story, like the level design, the fact it was level gated, the fact you had to fucking fight these cunts in the open world, which just destroyed everything. If they had done it solely indoors and kept to their environments, it would have been a complete.
If it was like Arkham Asylum, where that was not an open world,
exactly.
That was like
if it was that, if it was been that, I don't know why they've gone. Oh, Arkham City, yeah, that was a better game. No, go back to. If it was exactly right, if it would have been like Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, fucking all these names.
I know.
If it was Arkham Asylum-esque and it was all indoors, it would have been a different game.
Yeah.
I think we would have been talking certainly higher score. It would have been 80s, I think.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, overall, I had a torrid time with it. I spent, I finished the story. There's all side stuff. I pretty much finished all that as well. The only thing I've got to go back and do is collectibles, which I won't be doing because it's a sick note.
Just get Steam DB, unlock all the achievements, and then
exactly that's it. Do that.
It.
They've added something to it that I've not touched yet, which is like a wave-based thing where you go up like levels of floors. There's like 50 floors, and you got to work your way up, and it's progressively. That sounds quite fun if I could rope 3 other people into it, but I bet you what. There ain't going to be 3 people getting roped into this.
No, there won't be. Well, I was going to ask about the co-op element, which you didn't experience. Could it have saved once? Okay, well, talk me through that experience, and then whether you feel like in the end that could have saved it or made it better or worse in your opinion.
The trouble is, some of these fights where it was getting harder, they seem to be made for a co-op experience. I found I was being bullied by some of the bosses because they were solely focused on me.
Right,
do you remember like when you played Destiny?
Yeah.
Like if you're shooting someone, you're getting fucking drew. You're like, fuck's sake, I wish I had someone who was shooting it so I could just take
Monster
it off.
Hunter
And then
as well.
Exactly, yeah, that. It was sort of made for bully boy. It was made. They were bully boy tactics being implemented. It was almost as if it was made for a two player game, and they've just gone, well, you can do it solo if you don't want to get involved.
Yeah.
But no, there was one mission I just thought, oh fuck it, because you had like a little wheel that you could do fucking emotes on, and then I didn't even realise, I accidentally switched from being open to closed to open, and then all of a sudden some random fucking bloke just turned up, popped into my game, and then helped me, and then fucked off, and I was like, oh, it's gone again. So I think I probably might have had more fun if there was a second person, because I
could
could
have been dragging someone else down in the misery.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, it is just. Yeah, I don't know, and I dread to think what it would have been like frame rate wise. So I was already having a torrid time. Yeah. You think what these games are like when you start playing getting more people in it, fucking halves the frame rate and the fucking thing. But nah, I gotta say, it was a bag of shit to be honest.
It's not sounding good. Any other business before we do the formalities? Or do we just go straight to the reception and say, look, this is what we want to do with this?
Yeah, it was. I think I just like the idea of it in my head because I'm a big fan of Batman. I like the characters. I like Robin. I like the idea of Red Hood. I really like the Nightwing. I think he's a brilliant character. Batgirl, come on. No, there's lots of Batgirl fans. She's fun, but you know, I'm playing this for a different experience, not Batman. I don't want to be
Yeah.
Batgirl. She's exactly the same.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Sexist.
like I say, the story, that's what got me in. I was like, I love that Court of Owls story. They're so cool. They can do so much stuff with that. It was interesting playing a thing where it's not the standard. I'm not here for the Joker. It's not Joker. It's all different story. And yeah, just I think I got wrapped up because I remember thinking I'm just going to buy this anyway. I don't care what. It's one of those games. Sometimes I quite enjoy playing a 7 out of 10 game.
Oh
'cause I
yeah,
think
yeah.
every now and again I will have fun with it. It doesn't have to be. I don't have to play a 9 and a 10s every time. I can happily play a 7 and still get enjoyment out of it. And I think I did want to, and yeah, was really hoping, but I don't know. It was a slap to the face, this game, and I'm surprised I spent so many hours in it.
Well, maybe you had
Likes a biff.
She weren't going to leave it to rot, was she? You
No,
wanted that
exactly.
You wanted that to be done,
Yeah,
and then the hours were needed to level that character up.
exactly. I'll tell you what, Biff would have been this within 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah. So it'd been a lot. Wouldn't have tolerated this level either.
No.
Well, look, we're inside the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery now. We let people into reception to make this decision because weather, cold, raining. Sometimes it's too hot as well out there, and it's champagne reception as we're part of the clan itself. Does Gotham Knights earn its place in the prestigious Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery?
It does, yeah. Solely based on
Weak.
solely based on the indoor environment. That is what I would say. If that was there, I say there was some of the sections in there. There was one thing as well I didn't mention. I remember thinking I'm going to write this down when we talk about this game.
Yeah.
There was one certain boss that was made out of some sort of material. I won't say because it will give it away. It's a spoiler, how that looked, I was like, fuck me, how has this not been talked about more? It was like, let's pretend it's like a liquid. It was like a boss made of liquid.
Everyone probably binned it before they got to that boss.
Well, that's the trouble. But I was like, fuck me, this is the best version of this sort of thing I've ever seen in a game. I was amazed. I was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
How have they done this? And it's not been talked about. I'm surprised it's not been called because it really does look good. I think, I wonder if other games will implement this into their thing.
Steal all the good bits, all the good bits.
Really good. But because of that, because the fucking indoor environments were very good, they were detailed, atmospheric. There was there was a few sections in you felt different sort of atmospheres in this game. You fucking roaring through Arkham Asylum. You're like, God, this looks dark.
Yeah.
You're going through fucking caves and you're going, God, look at the light in here. The fight's holding up, but you get to that open world and you go, well, this is the real crux. So, yeah, it gets because there is a playable game in there, I will score it. But what's the worst I can give it?
We've got platinum, gold, silver, or bronze. Now,
can't go any lower than that.
No, this is what I mean. It's an award. It's not It's ain't an old boys club where you let any old toot in. This is an award for doing good work.
I mean, it's going to have to be a bronze then.
I mean, it disgraces all the other bronzes, doesn't it?
It does disgrace. It's the worst bronze I've ever played.
Guardians of the Galaxy lurking there for some people's lists.
Christ, no, Guardians is much better than this.
Wow.
No, I see there's people that will...
Kirby Star Allies.
Cool. Yeah.
Soil.
I mean, there's something there that made me get through it and not go, nah, you know. No, I'm not finishing this. This is that bad. It was playable. It was fun to an extent. I don't know. Then some of them missions, I was just like, it's quite fun doing these, going around and fucking solve. The trouble is, there's so much repetitivity in it.
Yeah.
You're doing the same missions, you're doing the same shit. It's the same fucking fighting, the same bosses. But sometimes I quite enjoy that shit.
Yeah.
It's
fine to enjoy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as I say, this goes up to the public. So when they come around and look at all these prestigious games that Adkins has got that he recognises as some of the best, and then they'll see that and probably be like, oh, So
Gotham Knights has earned it. And tell them it's because the indoor environments
the
are
indoor
very
environments. Put that in,
indoor environments.
inscribe that at the
And-
bottom.
And that boss that was made of a substance that
Yeah.
made it look very good.
Two
Everything
items,
else in
two
the
items
game-
in 35 hours, enough
Yeah.
to get it into the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery. That is Gotham Knights scoring itself a lovely bronze there. Beautiful bronze, some would say, from
bronze.
Mr. Adkins. That's going to wrap this episode of Idle Game Chat up. Nothing more for us to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.